Hi, so in today's lesson video, I'm going to show you the differences between comparatives and superlative adjectives, and this is a review from your grammar in Unit 9. Let's start first with the comparatives. So, the comparatives are adjectives that are used to compare two things only. Example here, I am going to compare two boys, Ali and Tom. So Ali is funny, but Tom is funnier than Ali. So I'm comparing Tom to Ali. And as you can see, to compare Tom with Ali, we need to use two extra letters at the end here. Tom is funnier than Ali. Let's look at the different rules for the comparative adjectives. So as you can see here, we have different rules that apply to the comparative adjectives. You have the short adjective, an adjective that is made of only one syllable. For example, the adjective strong. In the comparative form, we just need to add er. So, for example, Tom is stronger than Ali. The second case here is when you have a short adjective, which is made of a consonant, a short vowel, and a consonant. For example, the adjective big. Big, you have a consonant B, the vowel I, and the consonant G. So when you have an adjective of this kind, with a consonant, a short vowel, and a consonant, then you need to double the consonants in the comparative form. So big becomes bigger. Then you have the adjectives that end in E. Example, large becomes larger in the comparative form. You just need to add an R. You keep the E, you just need to add an R. Then the adjective that ends in Y, example, happy or funny, just like we saw before with Tom is funnier than Ali. So any adjectives that end in Y, you just need to delete the Y and put an I, and you add again the ER. Now let's look at the long adjectives. What is the long adjectives? It's the adjectives that have two or three or more syllables. Example, expensive. How many sounds, how many syllables do you hear? Expensive. 3, right? So that's why, because it's a long adjective with 3 syllables, we need to add more. Example, expensive becomes more expensive. I will give you another example. For example, beautiful. Beautiful. It's 3 syllables. So we don't say beautifuler. No. We say more beautiful. Another adjective, stylish. Stylish. 2 syllables. We also say more stylish. Okay? Now we have the irregular forms. The irregular forms are the adjectives that don't take er at the end. We completely change the word. For example, good becomes better, not gooder. We say better. Bad becomes worse, not better. Little becomes less. Far becomes farther. Let's look at another table here. So, like I said before, for the short adjectives, you just need to add er and then. So these are the comparatives. You need to put a then at the end. Like we saw here, Tom is funnier than Ali. Tom here is funnier than Ali. So we can also say, for example, Tom is smaller than Ali. Tom is shorter than Ali. Tom is fatter than Ali. Again, here we use a double T because we have a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant. Same for the adjectives with Y, like we saw before. When you have a Y at the end of your adjective, when you use the comparative, you need to delete the Y and put IER. Now let's move to the form. So as you can see here, to make a comparative adjective sentence, for example here, Tom is funnier than Ali, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. So we need the subject. In the example here, Tom is the subject. The verb is. Then we need the adjective with ER, or if it's a long adjective, we don't put ER, we put more plus the long adjective. Then we need to use the word than, don't forget than. And finally the object, Ali. Now let's look at the common mistakes that students often make. Number 1, don't forget the verb. Tom funnier than Ali. This is wrong. Why? Because we don't have a verb here. Can you see? Between Tom and funnier, there's no verb. So this is wrong. We need to say Tom is funnier than Ali. That's correct. Number 2, mistake number 2. If you have a long adjective, then do not use ER at the end. For example, we don't say Tom is more handsomer than Ali. This is wrong. Why? Because handsome, how many syllables can you hear? Handsome, 2 syllables. So it's a long adjective. So we just need to put more before the adjective without adding ER, because we already have more before. So the correct sentence is Tom is more handsome than Ali. No R at the end, because we already have the word more. Mistake number 3, do not forget to add the word than. A lot of students forget to put the word than. They say, Tom is funnier Ali. This is wrong. You need to say, Tom is funnier than Ali. And that's correct. Now let's move to the superlative adjectives. So we saw just before that big is an adjective, bigger with ER is the comparative, and finally now the superlative adjective is biggest, EST. Okay, the rule is that we use the superlative adjective to compare one thing to many other things. So for example, we have Joe. Joe is the funniest. Joe is the funniest boy out of all them 3. Okay? So Ali is funny. That's okay. Tom is funnier than Ali. Alright. But Joe is the funniest boy. Joe is the funniest. So let's look at the superlative rule. So let's focus here on the last column. When you have a 1-syllable adjective, like strong, then you need to add an EST at the end, strongest. When you have a short adjective made of a consonant, a short vowel and a consonant, then you need to use EST, biggest. When you have an adjective that ends in E, then you need to add ST, large becomes largest. When you have an adjective that ends in Y, for example, happy, then you need to delete the Y and put I and then EST. When you have a long adjective this time, then you need to use the most expensive. For example, expensive becomes the most expensive. And finally, you have the irregular forms. Good becomes the best. Little, the least. Bad, the worst. Far, the farthest. So here, how the superlative adjectives are made. As you can see here, Joe is the funniest. Can you see here in the superlative we don't use the word than? Okay? So when you have a short adjective, it's the smallest. The plus the adjective plus est. The same here, the shortest, the fattest. When you have an adjective that ends in a y, then you need to delete the y again and put I and est, the easiest. English is the easiest subject. The dirty becomes the dirtiest, and with a long adjective, for example, difficult, becomes the most difficult. For example, English, I don't know, or Chinese is the most difficult language. Then you have beautiful. How can I use beautiful in the superlative form? So we use the most beautiful. Why? Because difficult, beautiful are long adjectives. For example, you can say Salama is the most beautiful girl in the class. And finally, you have the irregular. Bad becomes the worst, good becomes the best. Example here, Ali here is the tallest boy in the class. Or if you have a long adjective like famous, you can say Ali is the most famous boy in the class. So how do we make a sentence using a superlative adjective? We need a subject, a verb, we need the word the, and we need the adjective with est. So Ali is my subject, is the verb, the, we have the, tall is the adjective, then you have est. Or you can have also the, like here, then you have most, and then you have famous. Famous is a long adjective. Now let's look at the common mistakes that you students make when using the superlative adjective. Don't forget the verb, guys. Tom funniest is wrong. You must say Tom is the funniest. Is the funniest. If you have a long adjective, then do not use est at the end. Tom is the most handsomest. This is wrong. You must say Tom is the most handsome. This is correct. Mistake number 3, do not forget to add the word the. Tom is funniest is wrong. You must say Tom is the funniest. That's correct. And finally, mistake number 4, do not mix comparatives and superlatives. Don't say Tom is funniest with est and then you put then Ali. This is wrong. You can say Tom is funnier than Ali. This is comparative because you have er and then. Or you can say Tom is the funniest, and this is a superlative because it has the and est. So when you have an exercise where they ask you to complete with the comparative or the superlative, you must always look at this word here. If you have then you know you need to use the comparative, meaning er, funnier, or more, with a long adjective, for example, more beautiful or more expensive. And if they give you the word the, then you know it's a superlative and you must use an est or the most plus a long adjective. Thank you for watching.